Are gaming presentations getting worse? I'm sure we all remember the days of E3, rest in peace, where we'd gather with our friends every year for the latest and greatest announcements in the world of video games. We'd have solid presentation after presentation, announcement after announcement from all the biggest players, the high-profile names, all over the course of just a few days. The PlayStation was announced at E3 in 1995, the GameCube, my favourite console of all time, that was announced in 2001, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess announced in 2004, Nintendo's live performance of whatever this was in 2008. The Microsoft Kinect in 2010, and of course, the biggest of all, Peggle 2 in 2013.
Peggle 2!
It was the Super Bowl of the gaming world, some might say. I might be the first person to have said that, until it was cancelled forever. So I made a video before about the birth of Summer Game Fest, and that covers this part in more detail, but the gist of it is that E3's demise, that was kind of sped up due to the lockdowns, events were hit hard, as we know. But the beginning of the end came down to a combination of moving away from centering industry professionals, the big ESA data leak, which publicized the personal information of thousands of journalists, public perception of the event after years of claims and demos, building expectations that were not lived up to on release, increased cost for vendors, the leaked pitch deck confirming a rebrand to being a fan, media, and influencer event that not everyone was happy about, and just not adapting to the digital age quickly enough. E3 left a hole in the calendar and a hole in our hearts, which Jeff Keighley has attempted to fill, and don't worry, I'm not planning on ranting about him again. The main point that I'm trying to make is that we've gone from this annual event that had the monopoly on gaming announcements to digital shows on a more frequent basis, with all the big news items being spread across Nintendo Directs, Nintendo Partner Showcases, Nintendo Indie World presentations, PlayStation State of Plays, Xbox Showcases, Call of Duty specific showcases, Devolver Directs, III Showcases, Rockstar casually dropping their own highly anticipated trailer on Twitter. All in all, a more diluted experience affecting how we consume gaming news and announcements. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one who's finished watching a presentation and thought, man, that just didn't hit. Are they getting worse? I mean, I'm definitely not the only person who's thought that, because thanks to the power of social media, I have to see seemingly never-ending complaints from people who haven't learnt that games not catering to their specific tastes doesn't mean that they're bad. But what I do want to explore in this video is why they feel different now, because I think about this a lot. For starters, as I've already mentioned, the increased frequency of high-profile presentation, which just leads to consumer fatigue and, at the very least, a perceived quantity over quality problem. Not forgetting that more frequent showcases does mean less time for developers to create polished demos and/or trailers. On our side, yeah, of course, it's better and more memorable to put several huge announcements together into like one show, and then we finish watching like, holy shit, that was the best thing I've ever seen, I'm so hyped. Unfortunately, the gaming industry often tends to put profit above what gamers want. From a business perspective, it's more beneficial for them to constantly remind everyone that, you know, you exist. I believe it's called reminder or retentive marketing. Some brands like Coca-Cola, they do this all the time, because who the heck doesn't know Coca-Cola? Like, why do they bother paying for all those big impacting ads in countries where they're already more than likely to be in the top 5 of most consumed sodas? Oh yeah, maintaining brand awareness and ideally encouraging repeat purchases from their regular customer base. And here's the frustrating truth. These presentations don't need to be good. If they are, that's fantastic news, but it's still a good result if they got gamers talking, and that talking could be gamers saying that it was the worst presentation ever. A bad Nintendo Direct doesn't change my opinion on their games at all. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to buy their games in the future either. I'm not saying that these companies go out of their way to produce bad presentations, more that they absolutely could save all their most hype announcements for one show and know that they are 100% going to excite gamers, and they simply choose not to do that. Probably also a good time to remind everyone that decisions like that typically come from not the hardworking devs who don't have any say. Speaking of hardworking devs, it's actually really difficult for a lot of gamers to feel excited, enthusiastic when so much development talent is getting cut left, right, and center, even if they've contributed heavily to successful projects in the past. Of course, none of this would be possible without the big transition over to digital showcases, and while they are more accessible, which is a good thing, They do tend to lack the energy and excitement that you typically get with these live events, and yeah, that can affect consumer perception and engagement. On a personal level, I absolutely love live audience reactions in the form of oohs, ahs, and cheering. I don't particularly like to see Where's Silksong being spammed in the chat while a game that has nothing to do with Hollow Knight is being presented. Feels a little bit disrespectful. Let's move on to how the gaming industry has changed, except I could literally talk for hours about this, so I'll summarize as best I can. Games are bigger, more expensive, and taking longer than ever to develop. And it feels like there's this bizarre competition between the top companies to throw money at AAAs and make the biggest, most technically impressive titles, forgetting that games need to be fun as well. And a lot of them are way too ambitious, or they're throwing too many cooks at the problem, so they keep releasing these games that are riddled with bugs instead of trying to create something more realistically in line with their own capabilities. Unnecessary microtransactions, underwhelming live service titles, subscriptions for everything, less physical releases, too much focus on remakes and remasters, removing basic functionality from consoles and pretending it's a good thing. The list goes on, and you start to understand the growing skepticism towards the biggest companies. But in their defense, gamers are more critical than ever, and not in a constructive way. Games aren't allowed to be good anymore, they have to be the best. Game of the year material, otherwise they're overhyped and bad. There are content creators who have caused irreparable damage to how gamers perceive games, and I need everyone to understand that it pays to be negative. It pays to be controversial, or at least enough to get clicks, but not so much that you'll get demonetized. People make a living with rage bait and reactions, over-exaggerating minor issues as if they're the worst thing ever, to the point where they're frothing at the mouth after every announcement to be the first person to say something is bad. The X situation just got worse, or this game's too woke and it just features a black woman. Of course influencers influence opinions, and of course you might think that I'm doing the same right now. But I just wish that good games that aren't perfect were afforded a space to exist. I wish that genuine feedback wasn't being drowned out by angry pitchfork mobs. I wish I didn't have such polarizing opinions forced on me every time I open a browser. And I wish I was allowed to enjoy a game without someone telling me that I'm a terrible person for having a good time. Let's keep going. Mobile gaming, obviously not so much a thing in the past. I personally predate smartphones, let alone mobile gaming. But mobile gaming is huge, like way bigger than you think it would be. And the inclusion of mobile games in these presentations, that often offers a mixed reaction, sometimes diluting the overall experience for console and PC gamers. Look, this is my most used gaming device. I like mobile games a lot. I play a lot of different mobile games, but I fully understand why mobile gaming announcements, they don't quite have the same reaction as Keanu Reeves surprising everyone by walking on stage to say that he's going to be in a highly anticipated cross-platform game. Leaks and speculation also hugely impact hype. Like, no one likes to have surprises spoilt for them, except me when it's like an IRL thing, because I'm not very good at pretending I like something if I don't actually like it, and I don't want to come off ungrateful, so no surprise parties for me. I also want to mention that in addition to the more frequent presentations, we seem to be getting less and less notice. It used to just be Nintendo who would announce a direct with about 24 hours notice, and now everyone seems to be doing it. Lots of buzz in a short period of time. Maybe it is to minimize the chances of leaks appearing online. All I care about is not everyone can move around their schedule last minute to watch. No one's excited about getting live updates through Twitter as they sneak their phone out under the desk. It is possible that our perception of these events is influenced by nostalgia. Gaming showcases, yeah, they've clearly changed in many ways, but are we also remembering the past more fondly? I know I do that a lot with video games in general. And it's not all doom and gloom, like the industry is evolving and so are the ways that games are being presented to us. As gamers, we probably do need to adapt our expectations whether we like it or not. At the end of the day, we're still getting fantastic games releasing every year, every month in fact. There's so much choice, there's not enough time. I'm probably gonna die before I make it to the end of my backlist. If you liked this video, you might like this one that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy the most out of all my other videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.